The galaxy, as known by the Galactic Conclave, was a testament to meticulous order. For over a millennium, from the gleaming spires of Plexus Station, 47 species wove a tapestry of interstellar peace. Or so they believed. Their universal harmony promised an end to strife, a unified culture, a shared prosperity. Yet, beneath this veneer of cosmic cooperation lay a more complex, often brutal reality. For every triumph of diplomacy, there was a quiet tragedy of assimilation. For every new alliance, a subtle erosion of identity. The Glyptons, artists whose very language was woven from light and sound, learned this truth 300 years ago. Their vibrant, resonating culture, once a symphony to the stars, became nothing more than a footnote in the Conclave's relentless march towards homogeneity. Lee Ravec, a Glypton archivist in a forgotten corner of Protectorate 734, carried the ghost of her people's past. Her hidden sanctuary, deep within the planet's repurposed mines, housed the last vestiges of true Glypton culture. The sonic sculptures, the light dances, the complex harmonic languages that were once the very essence of their being. She was a silent sentinel of a fading memory, her life a quiet defiance against the very harmony the Conclave championed. Her secret archive became the repository of a painful truth. The Conclave didn't conquer with fire, but with slow, deliberate erasure. At the heart of this empire sat the Galactic Conclave, its power balanced precariously between three dominant forces. The Alaran Alliance, represented by the venerable delegate Veldar, embodied the Conclave's philosophical soul. They genuinely believed in universal harmony, viewing their gradual assimilation of new cultures as a benevolent guiding hand, a necessary step towards galactic unity. Veldar, with his ancient wisdom, often found himself mediating the endless rivalries of his peers, striving to maintain the fragile peace. Then there was the Cypherian hegemony, the Conclave's iron fist. Forged in the crucible of their own planet's brutal history of invasion and survival, the Cypherians believed strength was the only true language. Their War Marshal Kress, a veteran of countless border skirmishes and pacification campaigns, carried the weight of his ancestors' suffering. He saw every unaligned system, every potential threat, as a prelude to invasion, a potential repeat of his people's tragic past. His paranoia regarding the 2-century silence from the distant Sol system was not mere aggression. It was a deeply ingrained survival instinct. Completing this triumvirate was the Nixon Consortium, the undisputed master of galactic commerce and the Conclave's economic engine. For Trader Prime Zax, the galaxy was an endless ledger, every star system a potential asset, every species a market to be exploited. His methods were subtle, bloodless, and devastatingly effective. He would offer nascent civilizations miraculous technologies on deceptively generous terms, embedding them in a web of debt and dependency that guaranteed centuries of economic servitude. To the Nixons, the silent Terrans were not a threat, but an anomaly, an untapped market, a resource pool waiting to be integrated. And while the Conclave meticulously managed its empire, humanity was building a different kind of civilization. The Great Silence, a global mandate enacted 2 centuries prior, had transformed Earth. Under the guidance of the Oracle, a sentient planetary AI born from their own early attempts at global governance, humanity solved its most pressing internal challenges. Poverty was eradicated, disease became a memory, and sustainable energy fueled a society that thrived in perfect harmony with its environment. This was not a primitive world. It was a carefully constructed utopia, hidden behind a sophisticated veil of electronic quietude. Every human life was valued, every resource managed with unparalleled efficiency. The paradox was profound. The most peaceful civilization in the known galaxy was also preparing for the greatest war. The observatory, humanity's clandestine galactic listening post buried beneath the Martian plains, was the heart of this grand deception. Here, generations of brilliant minds dedicated their lives to understanding the universe they pretended not to see. Fleet Commander Shara Vance, a descendant of the first Martian settlers, led the Terran Defense Fleet, a force that existed solely on paper and in simulations that had run billions of potential Conclave invasion scenarios. Beside her, Chief Analyst Marcus Vale oversaw the vast ocean of data collected over 2 centuries. His predecessors had not merely translated conclave languages, they had deciphered their unspoken customs, their political rivalries, their deepest fears, and their most vulnerable weaknesses. Their conclusion was grim. To join the conclave was to sign a species-wide suicide pact. To survive, humanity had to do more than simply exist. They had to redefine what it meant to be powerful. This immense, secret undertaking was codenamed Operation Prominence. The intricate dance of deception that had shielded humanity for so long was finally threatened by an act of cosmic misfortune. The Nixon freighter, Stardust Drifter, was flung off course by an unprecedented solar flare emanating from Earth's sun. Its deep-range distress beacon, sweeping the vast emptiness of the outer Sol system, brushed against something impossible. A fleeting energy signature. A cloaked Terran scout ship, deployed as part of Operation Prominence to monitor deep space, had been moving to intercept the stricken freighter, its crew prepared for a first contact scenario based on compassion. But the captain of the Stardust Drifter, a creature of the consortium's ruthless pragmatism, saw only danger. He registered the advanced signature, watched as it vanished the instant his own scans detected it, and concluded it was a hostile, unseen force. His desperate report back to the Nixon Consortium painted a picture of a technologically advanced threat lurking in the Forbidden Sol system. War Marshal Kress seized this report like a starving predator. To him, it was not merely evidence, it was vindication. The silent Terrans were not primitives. They were deceivers, a clandestine empire building power in the shadows, just as he had always feared. The Nixon Consortium, sensing a potential rival or an untapped resource, swiftly aligned with Kress, their economic muscle silencing any dissenting voices. Delegate Veldar, the Alaran, found himself isolated, his calls for caution now dismissed as naive idealism. The debate raged for days, reaching a fever pitch unseen in decades. The vote for the Cypherian Enforcement Act, a thinly veiled invasion, was called. Smaller client worlds, caught in the inescapable debt traps of the Nixons, were coerced into compliance. The Glypton delegate, his multi-jointed hands trembling, cast his vote for intervention, a public betrayal of the very principles of peaceful coexistence that his people had cherished. The motion passed by the narrowest of margins, sealing Earth's fate, or so the conclave believed. On the bridge of the Iron Hand, War Marshal Kress watched his fleet assemble, 1,000 Cypherian warships preparing to jump. He felt a grim satisfaction, a sense of having finally brought order to a chaotic galaxy. This was not conquest, he told himself. It was pacification, the necessary work of maintaining the conclave's universal harmony. He looked out at the churning vortex of energy forming before his flagship, the portal to the Sol system about to open. He was unaware that 10 light-years away, in the deep cold of the Oort cloud, Fleet Commander Shara Vance was also watching his fleet assemble, her expression calm, her voice a barely audible whisper as she issued a single command: execute Operation Prominence. Operation Prominence was not a response. It was an interception. The Terran Defense Fleet didn't just arrive in the Plexus sector. It materialized at the precise coordinates of the Cypherian Fleet's jump point, a silent, absolute wall of power. The Conclave's FTL technology relied on tearing space. Humanity's, developed over 2 centuries of secret research, could phase through it. Before the Cypherian crews could even register the impossibility of what they were witnessing, a single, perfectly calibrated energy pulse radiated outwards from the Terran flagship. It was not a weapon of destruction, but of elegant, total control. Across the Cypherian fleet, weapons systems went dormant, engines froze, and communication arrays died. The same profound silence fell over Plexus Station, its defenses, its communications, its very lifeblood choked off. The Conclave's most powerful fleet and the hub of its empire were rendered inert, helpless, and utterly at the mercy of the silent, waiting Terrans. The checkmate was absolute. The subsequent landing of Fleet Commander Shara Vance was not an invasion, but a coronation. She strode through the main hangar, past the heavily armed Saphirian guards who could only watch, their weapons inert, their power meaningless. The long walk to the conclave chambers was a silent funeral procession for an entire galactic era. The delegates took their seats, not to debate, but to listen. The trial of the galactic conclave was about to begin, presided over by a species they had deemed primitive, then ignored, and finally, provoked. The great silence was over, and its breaking was not a roar, but a surgical strike, delivered with precision and overwhelming, undeniable power. Fleet Commander Shara Vance did not rage. She did not threaten. She merely presented the truth, stark and unvarnished. Her presentation was a masterclass in strategic intelligence, a calm, surgical dismantling of a 1,000-year-old empire. She began with the Glyptons. The conclave was forced to witness, in horrifying detail, the slow, agonizing death of a culture, projected from Lyra Vek's secret archive. The vibrant sonic sculptures, the rich historical narratives, all meticulously documented by human observers, stood in stark contrast to the sterile, conclave-generated reports that had dismissed the Glyptons' unique culture as unviable. Delegate Veldar, the Alaran, visibly recoiled, confronted not by an enemy, but by the cold, undeniable consequences of his own benevolent neglect. Next, the Nixon Consortium's edifice of prosperity was revealed as a house of cards built on the suffering of others. Marcus Vale's meticulous analysis of their deep space financial transactions exposed every predatory contract, every hidden clause, every manipulated market. The displays highlighted the obscene profit margins derived from worlds left in perpetual famine, their agricultural outputs siphoned off to service impossible debts. Trader Prime Zax, the galaxy's most shrewd negotiator, found himself utterly bereft of leverage. His entire economic empire laid bare as a colossal scam. His multifaceted eyes, once glinting with avarice, now reflected only the dawning horror of his absolute exposure. Finally, Vance turned her attention to War Marshal Kress and the Saphirian hegemony. The battle simulation played again, but this time it was a profound, devastating lesson. Marcus Vale's calm, disembodied voice narrated the inevitable outcome, explaining how the Terran AI, the Oracle, could predict Saphirian fleet movements with 99.7% accuracy, how their quantum-entangled targeting systems made missing impossible, and how their reactive armor could adapt to any energy weapon. It was not a demonstration of brute force, but of intellectual superiority, a complete and utter academic dismantling of the hegemony's perceived might. Kress, the proud warrior, saw his entire life's philosophy crumble before his eyes. His strength, his tactics, his very existence as a military power, all had been rendered utterly obsolete. With the old reality shattered beyond repair, Vance presented the new, the Terran Covenants, a revolutionary charter built on absolute sovereignty, open knowledge, and true mutual defense. But it contained a principle that transcended even this: the Restoration Mandate. Humanity pledged to use its advanced technology not only to protect, but to heal, to reverse the environmental damage wrought by the Conclave's mining, to reintroduce lost flora and fauna, and most profoundly, to help every oppressed species reclaim their forgotten histories, languages, and cultures. It was not merely a political proposal. It was an offer of cosmic restitution, a promise to undo centuries of silent suffering. This was not a power play. It was a moral imperative. The immediate aftermath was not quiet acceptance, but a political earthquake that reverberated across the galaxy. The Conclave, a monolithic power for 1,000 years, fractured in a matter of hours. The delegates of the client worlds, those shackled by Nixon debt and Saphirian threats, found their voices. One by one, then in a flood, they renounced their allegiance, formally petitioning to become the first signatories of the Terran Covenants. The old guard was left adrift in the ruins of their empire. War Marshal Kress, utterly broken, was last seen in his quarters, obsessively replaying the Terran battle data, a warrior consumed by the incomprehensible nature of his defeat. Trader Prime Zax vanished from public view, presumably to salvage what he could of his crumbling financial empire from the shadows, forever changed by the directness of human intervention. Humanity's first act as the galaxy's new arbiter was not military, but a profound act of cultural healing. Restoration teams were dispatched across the former Conclave territories, beginning with the Glypton homeworld. For Lyravek, whose entire life had been dedicated to preserving a dying past, it was the unimaginable dawn of a future. The whisper of her rebellion had finally found its echo in a chorus of newfound hope. The ancient sonic sculptures, once fading memories, now pulsed with resurrected life, teaching a new generation their true history. The galaxy had been given a second chance. But humanity's story, their great project, Operation Prominence, had a purpose far grander than simply dismantling a corrupt empire. During their 2 centuries of profound silence, listening to the universe, they had intercepted other signals. Faint, impossibly distant, and originating not from within the known galactic disk, but from the terrifying silent void beyond. These were not random cosmic emissions, but structured, intelligent patterns, vastly older than the Conclave, vastly more powerful than anything humanity had yet encountered. The Terran fleet, built in secret, was always meant for more than just a galactic confrontation. It was a shield, forged in preparation for a darkness that lurked far beyond the Conclave's petty squabbles. The Great Silence was over, but humanity's true mission, the defense of all life against a threat far more ancient and terrifying, had only just begun. The whispers from the void had been heard, and humanity was now ready to answer.